So one thing that a lot of you guys have been asking about in the comments is a what's on my phone type video for Android. And since there's kind of a lull in the tech sector right now, I think that's a fantastic idea. So what we're gonna do today is go from this factory reset S22 with a serviceable but somewhat lame looking home screen to this, a highly functional, completely customizable, and fantastic looking home screen, at least in my opinion. I mean, that's the thing about phone setups. They're going to be very opinion based. You might not exactly love mine, but you can take the tips and tricks that I'll show you today and tailor your own setup to your own personal tastes. So let's start with a blank slate. After you get through the initial setup by connecting to your Wi-Fi, setting up your passcode, and signing into your email accounts and that sort of thing, you should be greeted with something like this. If you don't have a Samsung phone, it won't look exactly like this, but it should be similar. The first thing that I like to do is change some settings, and the one thing I always go for first is the keyboard settings, because I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely hate predictive text and autocorrect, so that gets turned off immediately. After that, I usually change my navigation settings depending on which Android phone that I'm setting up. The Samsungs usually default to button navigation when you first set them up, but I'm a big fan of gesture-based navigation, so I go ahead and switch it over to that. It's just cleaner and it takes up less space. Then I go into the display settings and make sure that the phone is on the highest resolution and the fastest refresh rate, because some phones like the S22 Ultra will default to a 1080p resolution even though it has a 1440p panel, most likely to save battery life. I also change my ringtones and vibration settings and stuff like that, but that's boring, so we're just gonna skip that and move on to the more fun stuff. After I have all of my settings dialed in, that's where I start downloading my favorite apps and deleting all of the bloatware that came with my phone. Sometimes phone manufacturers will automatically add apps like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Outlook right out of the box, and since I don't use any of those, I just go ahead and delete them. The social media apps that I use the most are YouTube, obviously, Twitter, Discord, and Instagram, and all of those will be added to the home screen when we start setting that up in just a minute. I also have apps like YouTube Studio for checking my analytics, my music apps like Spotify and YouTube Music, and some generic utility apps like Roku for my TV and Roborock for my robot vacuum cleaner. Another app that I installed this time around is called Folder Widget, and it's the app that you'll need to set up your home screen like mine. Folder Widget is what allows you to build these clean looking boxes with apps in them on the home screen. They're completely customizable, and I'll tell you exactly how to set them up right after I talk about another very cool app that's sponsoring this video, Polycam. Polycam is the world's leading 3D scanner app. It used to be only available on iOS, but they just launched their app for Android, so they wanted me to tell you about it. You can use Polycam to capture the world around you and create quick and accurate 3D models. It's super easy. All you gotta do is walk around an object that you'd like to scan and take images from every single angle. Then you just upload your images to get a 3D model in minutes. You can also gain access to the world's fastest growing library of 3D models on Polycam's Explore feed and download and use captures from all over the world. This app has a huge amount of use cases. Their user base includes everyone from architects, interior designers, and engineers to, 3D artists and game developers and filmmakers. Now, personally, I'm gonna use it to scan objects to print out on my 3D printer, kind of like my D&D mug that I think I'm gonna print out this weekend. I think that'll be a fun little project to play around with. Follow the link in the video description below to download Polycam from the Play Store or sign up on the web and start scanning today. All right, so let's actually start setting up the home screen, starting with the wallpaper. I almost always go with an abstract, minimalist wallpaper that doesn't have a whole lot going on. If you have a really busy wallpaper, like, a photo you took, it gets a little distracting and it ends up looking pretty terrible most of the time. A great app for finding good wallpapers is called Wally 4K, but if you just want the one that I went with, I'll just leave it in the description below. Now it's time to set up the folders. The first step is to get rid of everything on the home screen. Just wipe all of it. It's garbage. Get rid of it. We'll add that stuff back later. Then hold down on the home screen for a second to bring up the widget menu and drag the folder widget onto the home screen. It'll be a blank gray box to start, but we can fix that by tapping on the folder. This first folder will be for my social media apps, so I'll add Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Discord to it by selecting those apps. I then change it to a 2x2 grid and change the scaling of the icons to make it look a little bit better. Now here's the sucky part. In order to customize these folders further, you have to pay for the pro version of the app. And I know most of you out there are groaning right now, but that's how these small-time indie developers get paid for their hard work. So I just went ahead and bought it, and you probably should too. If you like the look of the app works well, you should buy it. Support the devs. When you own the pro version, you can tweak the look of your folders to your heart's content. Now for me, I wanted to go for a setup that matches some of Samsung's default widgets, like the alarm and clock widgets. So I removed the text at the bottom and changed the margin so that they would line up properly once the other widgets were added. The trick is to reduce the text size to its lowest setting and to make sure that the text top setting is at 0. I personally like the look of white folders, so I changed the background color of the folder to white and set the opacity to 204, which allows just a hint of the background to come through the folder. You could just as easily switch the color to black though if you wanted to do like a dark mode version. Then I rinsed and repeated for the other folder, which I added more of my most used apps to. I used the 3+4 setting for this one so that it matches the other folder, but it also adds an extra 3 apps to the menu for more utility. I placed this folder to the left-hand side of the home screen, but pushed it up a little to make room for the alarm widget at the bottom. To get the alarm and clock widgets to match the folders, you have to press and hold on the widget and tap Settings. From there, you can turn off the day and night color setting and drop the opacity a little to match. Having the folders and default Samsung widgets offset like this breaks up the visual monotony a little and makes everything look a little bit more interesting than if they were just side by side. With that done, I added the phone, messages, Gmail, and Google Chrome apps to my dock, and then I put the At a Glance and Google Search widgets at the top of my home screen to tie everything together and avoid having too much negative space. Voila! That's my home screen setup. Again, this might not be to your personal taste, but there are a million different combinations of wallpapers, folder colors, configurations and positions, different apps and widgets you can add, etc. To be honest, I like mine because it kind of reminds me of the Windows Phone era, except this looks arguably more modern and it's definitely more functional than a Windows Phone. Anyway, I hope this video helped or at least gave you some ideas for what to do with your own phone. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.